Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome from the haven of naysayers, non-believers, and critical thinkers with my friends behind me. I hope you're all doing well. I hope everybody has had a good weekend hitherto, and I hope you're all raring to go for the upcoming week. Whatever. I'm doing well, thank you very much indeed. The weather has been playing up a little bit today. I was going to do a video from outdoors, but I decided against that because I only have one pair of hands, and trying to film and change clothing every 2 minutes wouldn't have worked. So anyway, I just wanted to bring you one or two things really that I suppose they're kind of generalized topics, if you like. You could widen it out. It's not necessarily relevant to, let's say, a research community or a so-called truth community or whatever. But I think it's just something in general that has to do with people's, I find myself included in that, by the way, at times, but people's necessity to have things as quickly as possible. And that includes answers to questions that one may have on particular topics. For some reason, there always seems to be this desire, certainly with a lot of people that I talk with about certain topics, to have a ready-made answer from me to them on offer. You know, it doesn't matter what topic it is, it just seems to be one of those, well, if you haven't got something ready for me that I don't want to know. Well, no, some things need explaining, some things need digesting, some things need researching correctly in different ways, depending on what the topic is, and etc., etc. And it makes it very difficult then to share ideas or run things past people or whatever, to come to conclusions, or if you do come to conclusions at all, of course, right? And it's quite interesting. So I've been seeing a lot of things online whereby people are just accepting stories and pushing stories, even though they claim to be from an area of the online world, let's say, that prefers the truth and likes to do their own due diligence when they research things, you would think. But it's often not the case at all. The same mistakes are being made as is what we are questioning all the time regarding mainstream behaviors, and that is to take for gospel what one is told, easily consumed, isn't it? The information. The easier the better. If possible, an app that goes buzz in your pocket to let you know of what's going on somewhere, whatever that might be, and all that sort of stuff. So we seem to have the same thing going on in research corners of the community, whereby people are either addressing topics that feed straight into the mainstream, whether it's, for example, Russell Brand right now. The fact that he even gets mentioned, for me, is absolutely bizarre, because any figure that's pushed in the media is handled, because it's all done by design, because the media are handled. And this is my point. If you're doing research, in the true sense of the word, research means you go to where the evidence takes you. You don't go to where you'd like to be and maybe consider some of the evidence but not all of it, or not explore all avenues, for example. Hence I always say question everything. Of course, there are certain things you don't want to be questioning to death, and it's all right with certain answers that you've got, that may be sufficient. But when you're doing research to try and really draw some good solid conclusions, then you have to do just that, question everything. So if you're looking at documents, for example, you have to look at who wrote what you're reading and who was behind it, and then that takes further research. And then wherever you're finding their names being dropped elsewhere, you've got to have a look at who wrote that bit of literature where you're finding that information also, and do a lot of cross-referencing and stuff like that. It's tedious. It's at times monotonous, and all the rest of it. The actual researching can take a long time. they don't come in the form of Google searches, you know. So as a stupid example, if I Google flat earth, you'll be surprised what you'll get. And it ain't going to be, let's say, how I would explain what that means, what it entails. You know, anyway, so this speedy wanting things immediately and, you know, as an answer is a problem. And of course, that includes then how people carry out their research in general. You know, I have a friend who's just put out a couple of videos, for example. He spent ages on them just to do, you know, 45 minutes or whatever it is, all told now as video, in video form, to get that all, collate all the information, this, that, and the other. You know, a lot of work has gone into that. And I know from personal experience that you're still not satisfied at the end of it when you've done it, but you do reach a point where you have to eventually put it out, right? It's a bit like, I suppose, if you write music or if you write lyrics for a song or something, same sort of thing. You know, there comes a point where you can labor it too much. So you have to either cut your losses or dump it totally and move on or whatever, you know. But that was quite interesting to see that. There was also, you know, the responses that I have sometimes when I post things on Facebook, for example, of photographs of the sun's reflection from your perspective. You're stood on the beach, your feet, the reflection goes from your feet to the horizon where the sun is moving away from you, but it appears to be lowering itself. That reflection of the sun cannot be possible on a ball. I've been asked if I've carried out that experiment, for example. It's not an experiment, but let's forget the semantics for the moment. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to model that one-to-one, are you? We don't even know what shape the Earth is. We're told what it is, but we know it's not that because there have been plenty of, I nearly said it, experiments, observations and such like carried out to absolutely blow the official narrative out of the water. All you have to do is look at what numbers you're given for the Earth, you know, the dimensions, circumference and all that sort of stuff. And there's a calculator that you can go and have a look at. And when you compare that with observations you can carry out yourself, one of those two things then becomes untrue. And guess what? It won't be your observations. They will be true. Right? Yeah. So I put a post out regarding that topic, and I was asked if I'd done experiments on it and this, that, the other. And the fact of the matter is, think about it yourself. Go away and have a think about it. How light would reflect on a curved surface compared with how light reflects on a flat surface. You know, I mean, surely people are capable of going away and having a think for themselves when someone posts that, as opposed to asking them, for example, in this case, well, have you carried out the experiment yourself? Well, so if I haven't, it means the question I'm posing or the statement I'm making is null and void. Or why doesn't it just prompt you to go and have a think yourself and have a look yourself? Because that way you come to your conclusions properly with your own first-hand experience of having looked it up yourself, as opposed to just, you know, wanting a ready-made answer. That is the point of what I'm going on about right now. Yeah, and there's a lot of that going on. So I just wanted to put that out there. It was something that I was talking to one or two people about very recently, and it's something that we've noticed with various topics. Don't know what's going on there. Another example would be when people are quoting dates all the time. You know, it's the same thing. In true research ways of thinking, dates are null and void how we use them, because the dates that we use are based on Christ, right? Now, what if Christianity is a myth, like many other things and stories are? What if that's just all backdated history writing with a few truths mixed in? that involve things that may have happened far more recently, let's say 250 years ago, for example. You know, so if that's the case, then what the heck are we even basing our date on? I mean, how many prophets and such like are there? How many different religions are there? Just think of it on that level, never mind whether religion is even, I mean, I'm not even going to start addressing that topic, but the point I'm making is, you know, our whole way of living in terms of, you know, our organized way of living, our routines are directly connected up with the way we measure time and the way we keep dates, right? So 2023, well, yeah, that's only according to AD, right? And previous to that, it would be BC. That's not valid anyway, right from the kickoff. That's not valid for the majority of the population of Earth, is it? Because the majority of the population of Earth certainly do not subscribe to Christianity, according to mainstream figures. You know, countries like Indonesia alone, I do believe, have about 160 or 170 million people, and it's, I think, 99 point something% Muslim, for example. You know, that's like 2 large European nations. That'd be like Germany and Britain put together, populations-wise. Not even. You'd have to add Holland in the mix. So, you know, the point I'm making is we're connected up to what I believe is an absolute mythical figure. You know, because I believe it all is. Because when you look at the old world hidden history research that's been carried out by many people before me, and also the stuff that I've done myself, it is clear to see that churches, or what we call churches or cathedrals or whatever, all these big ones and small ones, you know, they all go so far deep in the ground, they must have been there before the ground came up. Thus, they were never built as houses of worship, ever. Because they're not how you see them. They're different, they're bigger, they serve a far bigger purpose. You know, and there are many, many other reasons why that cannot have been us as the civilization we know today, if we're to believe the history books, if we're to go by the history books. And so the topic takes you even deeper and deeper and deeper. But the point I'm making is, getting back to the date thing, yet we still use a Christian-based date. And, you know, does nobody ever think about that when they even date things? Excuse me. But to be fair, I don't either. We go with it because it's the system we're in, isn't it? And it's the one we're used to using. And that's it, isn't it? Yeah, anyway, I thought that was just a nice, interesting little side note conversation I had with a friend yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yes, it was. When we spoke about that, you know, you could really go into the minutiae of things. So you have to be careful not to do that as well, of course. Get bogged down in stuff before you're actually doing the actual real research. But nevertheless, it shows you how we do all end up in the mainstream way of thinking at some point with something or other, you know. Anyway, moving on. 1 or 2 things I think I wanted to mention, but I'm not going to say them now, I don't think, because basically I wanted to keep the video relatively short and I've already waffled on far too long. But one thing I will say is that there is going to be a Flat Earth social again coming up on the 26th. That will be a Tuesday, the 26th of September, 1900 hours, 7 p.m. at the Pavilion Arms in Bournemouth on Wimborne Road. I do believe Alex Michael, Conspiracy Music Guru, will be beamed in via Satelloon and grace us with his presence for a bit of a chinwag and a couple of sherbets. So I'll be looking forward to the chinwag, most certainly, not that I drink. And yeah, because it's been a little while. Just trying to think now, last time we actually spoke. We've been in touch, but not actually spoken. It's been a while now. But anyway, yeah. So that'll be fun. Tuesday, 26th of September, 1900 hours, Pavilion Arms in Bournemouth. Be there or be exceptionally spherical, which would make no sense at all. Unless, of course, your books tell you so. Alrighty, I'm going to leave it there for the moment. I hope that wasn't too much waffle. I know what I was trying to say. There are a couple of things that I'm noticing, and not just I'm noticing, but a few people are noticing, where there is a complacency that's kicking in at the moment with many people, where you just wonder what's going on. I'll leave that there. Right, so as you can see behind me, there's a Right Odd conference going on. We have the Pondering Ape. He's having a little ponder about this here. Of course he is. Why wouldn't you? When you're given that there, but yet you're experiencing that there, then it gives you something to ponder, doesn't it? What do you believe? A model or reality? So it's worth pondering. That's why this ape does just that. We have, of course, the sleeping masses. And if they're not grazing, all they do is sleep in masses. Lapping this up. And then we have Larry there in the background, keeping a close eye on things. So in case you were ever wondering what's going on, what's going down in the background, well, that's exactly what's going down. They're pondering our reality. So on that observational, stay true to yourself note, I thank you for popping by to have a little look, and I will see you all soon. Some of yous much sooner. Until then, ta-ta for now.